Up for educational critical review and reaction is Jordan Maxwell. We're in the Twilight Zone.
The bodies grew, but their brains didn't. There's still a bunch of 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds out there in the world believing stuff like all those 5-year-old and listening to the adults, who are the priests, the police department, the government, the senators. It's like the priests. They're listening to all the officials in the church and all the officials in government. And the officials don't have the faintest idea in the world what's going on. Nobody knows how to read. Nobody seems to think. And when nobody's thinking, nobody's going anywhere. And so I realized something's going on here, and this whole entire thing that I call the adult world is full with crap. Nobody seems to know what's going on. You can ask 5 different preachers from 5 different churches the same question, and you get 5 totally different answers. That means there is no agreement among anybody. Nobody knows anything. They're not telling you anything. They're giving you their opinion. And me, I'm not interested in your opinion. I forgot more than you will ever learn. I'm not interested in your opinion. I want to know for sure. Prove it to me in front of everybody. Prove it to me. Because that's what I can do with my beliefs. I can prove it to you because I go to the reference work and I use logic and intellectual intelligence to explain my questions and why I believe what I do. Nobody else seems to do that. They just either badmouth you and call you names because they can't deal with what you're actually saying and what you're actually talking about. So I realized a long time ago that adults have no idea in the world what's going on. They're worse than children. So I'm not asking anybody to tell me nothing. I'm not asking anybody to explain nothing. I'm just going to devote my life to reading and researching all the things I'm interested in. Most people are not interested in secret society, symbols, occult symbols and emblems that are used by government and religion and military. Why do you wear certain things in the military? Why do you wear the same identical symbols that the Nazis used, that the communists used in Russia? You're using the same insignia, the identical same insignias Americans wear that the Soviets wear, that the Nazis wore, that the different military groups around the world, they all wear white gloves, their official white gloves. What's white gloves going on here? What's going on with white gloves? What's going on with all of these words and terms? Everybody, all the different military organizations throughout the earth have generals and corporals and soldiers. Why are we all using the same words? Why are we all? And then it finally dawned on me. Something is going on whereby the entire world is being militarized using the same words, the same terms, the same money, the same financing. The whole world is being militarized and kept stupid so that they can fight each other. And there's got to be some kind of an organized effort. And that's what brought me into the world of secret society. I know about the mafia. I know about La Cosa Nostra. I have been involved. I have been in the company of very high degree secret society members in organized crime. I was there. I saw it. So I understand now how it works. It's called organized crime.
Yeah.
Like George Carlin said, it's a big club.
And you're not in it. Yes. Yeah, Jordan, I want to take us back to the 8-year-old kid you were. How did you come about being a kid that questioned?
I always question because when I was a little kid, I would even in junior high school, especially in high school, I would always go to church with everybody, all my friends that were in school. We all went to each other's church. We all hang out together, all the kids that knew each other. And I would go with my friends to their churches. And they'd come with me, they would go with everybody else to their churches. But I was going to church to find out answers to my question. I don't want to hear the beautiful music, the chants and the candles and all of that. I understand it doesn't do a thing for me. I want answers. Period. Intellectually, I want to be satisfied with answers that I can understand and buy into. And I don't buy into anything I've heard so far in religion, period. God, nobody knows how right I was, because today I have discovered, after some 60 years of studying theology and the science of God, I have discovered so many things about theology and religion that you have no idea that even exist, because I was a radical, revolutionary thinking child. Yes. And I started inquiring about all kinds of things that I have found out now that are unbelievable. If you were to really do homework and spend some 60 years studying theology, it will blow your mind where things have come from. I'll give you a few examples later. But it appeared to me that nobody in the adult world knew what was going on. Anybody I would ask, my uncle, my dad's family, I'd ask my grandparents, nobody seemed to know what I was asking. It was so ignorant. They didn't even know. They never even entertained such a question. And so I realized that adults are not the place to go for answer, because they don't know from zero. They don't know nothing. But why would you entertain them by asking them questions when you know they're just going to talk down to you and give you their opinion? I don't want your opinion. You don't know what you're talking about. So I'm not interested in your opinion. I want somebody who can tell me the truth and prove it to me. So that's the way I grew up. I always grew up against society. I knew there was something wrong with the human race, because all the adults seemed to be wonderful as they were, sweet as they were, nice as they were to me. But adults do not seem to know their butt from a hole in the ground. They don't know what's going on. Nobody's ever told them anything. They've never asked for proof on anything. They don't understand science. They don't understand astronomy. They have no idea what the sun is. They have no idea in the world how we got here, who we are, and where we're going when we die, and what is life. I mean, all the questions that a child could ask, I was asking very early in life, and it became finally obvious to me. Don't ask the adults. They don't know from nothing. Just do the research yourself and try and be kind and courteous to everybody and explain to them what they don't know. That's what I wanted to do.
Let's get a little background. Did you have siblings?
My brother was 8 years younger than me. He passed away a few years ago. So I have my younger brother, and I guess I influenced him because he started acting like me, started questioning everything because I influenced him in that.
That's excellent. It sounds like you have a good genes, though. If you're if he also was able to open up his worldview and question.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the world you grew up in. Say, do you have memories prior to being 8 years old, and what your life was before that as a very young?
I was born and raised in a city in the Gulf, on the Gulf of Mexico in Florida, in northwest Florida, about 60 miles from the Alabama-Florida state line, in Pensacola.
Oh, yeah.
Pensacola, whether you know anything about it or not, Pensacola was a hot spot for UFOs and alien activity. People were seeing extraterrestrials, and at night there was all kinds of strange lights in the sky and things landing and strange phenomena going on in the city. We had ghouls. We had a ghoul come into our town in Pensacola that was robbing graves and eating the bodies. And people don't want to talk about that, but I was there. I saw it. And so we had strange otherworld monsters kind of thing, ghouls, people who would actually dig up a grave and pull the body out and eat it and then leave it lay. And that was something that we saw in my hometown. That's the kind of stuff we were living with. So I grew up in that kind of an area where there was strange things happening. And when I was very little, I would pull my bed out next to my window in my bedroom so that I could look out at the stars at night. We had a screen window because the mosquitoes were horrible. But I would pull my bed up to the window so I could look out at the stars at night. And I would wake up in the middle of the night. And the moment I woke up, I saw someone at my window. And I'd jump up as a kid. I'd jump up quickly, open the window, the screen. And my dog was out there, and he didn't say a word. He just sat there quietly. But I know there was somebody at my screen because I saw them just in a blink of an eye. So I had begun to have other world, what is called supernatural, but they're not supernatural. It's the wrong word. The word is preternatural.
Yes.
Look it up in the dictionary. Preternatural means strange things that happen in this world that has nothing to do with human life.
Yes.
Strange things that do not make sense to anyone. They're called preternatural events. Well, I started having preternatural experiences. I was being able to see. And for some reason, I was being able to see things which other people were not seeing.
Do you still experience this today?
Yes. I still see things today that other people would not believe if they had seen it themselves. And I try and tell them what I saw, and they look at me like I got 3 heads. So I don't talk to people. I don't talk to people any longer. I feel like Jackie Mason said. Jackie Mason said, when I talk to other people, I always end up talking to myself. So now I'm just talking to me. I'm not talking to anybody else. I cut out the middleman. And I could tell you some stories that would knock you out, things which I have actually seen with my own eyes. So I know that on this earth, there are life forms on this earth that you have never heard of before. You don't know anything about. And believe me, you don't want to know. There's some really strange creatures on this earth that you don't want to know that you live on the same earth with.
So just to get an understanding of all this before we get into some of these creatures, what's your understanding with what happens after we die?
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
Yeah, I know. That's a very interesting question. And of course, I have to tell you, I don't know because I haven't been there yet. But I have heard all the experts. I've traveled around the world giving lectures in many countries of the world, giving lectures on my experiences and what I have been given. But I've talked to so many important people who have studied this subject of what happens to a human when they die. I don't know because I haven't been there yet. But what I do know is that there can be a big misconception as to how things work when you die. We know that the phenomena, the idea that reincarnation is real. We know that it's real. There's no doubt about that. The only problem that science today is dealing with is how do you explain it? What is the explanation? Because we know that there are people who have told us about their experiences when they lived 500 and 1,000 years ago. They lived 500 years ago or 700 years ago, and they tell you what they saw in minute detail. And then later on, science happens to do a dig somewhere and find out exactly what they said happened. That's exactly what happened. Now, how did they know these things when nobody knew until they dug it up themselves? So science found it themselves. So to know that there's some people on this earth who can tell you things that happened 1,000 years ago and what they were wearing and what happened and what everyone else was wearing and how they lived, And then later on, science does a dig and we find out that's exactly right. It's precisely right what they said. How would they have known that? Well, the only way they could have known that is they were there. I say no, there's another way they could have known. They don't have to be there. We know that we have the ability to record things. We call it videos and audio and video recorders. And we can do it in films like movies. And you can see brilliant movies of brilliant people who died many years ago, but they're just alive as everybody else is on the screen. So we know how to record life form. And we know exactly what they were doing because we could see it. Well, the same thing is true in light. Maybe there were spirits, what we call ghosts, demons, jinns, poltergeists, strange creatures, angels, devils, demons, whatever you want to call them. Maybe those spirit entities were there 1,000 years ago, and they don't forget. And they have the ability to communicate with your brain because it's an electrical computer. Your body as a battery and your brain as a computer, and maybe they are downloading into your computerized programming what they saw, what the demons saw, what the angels saw 1,000 years ago, and they are talking through you. They're using your vocal cord. They're using you to talk to the world. And so they're having you tell the world that you saw this and you saw that, and Bigfoot wasn't true. But it's not because you were there. It's because those spirits were there, and they're talking to the world through you and putting the ideas into your mind. So if somebody is extremely accurate, it doesn't mean you, the person, was there. It could also mean that there were spiritual entities there, ones that the Christians would call angels, good angels, bad angels, demons, devils, poltergeists, jinns, whatever the different religions of the world want to call these spirit entities. They were there, not you. And they have put it into your mind to tell the people what you think you saw, but it wasn't you. And so I know that that's going on right now. So much is going on in this world where spirits are putting words into people's mouths to mislead.
Yes, I'm onto this possession thing. I want to look at, do you think it's possible that through some of this, some of these abilities, that some of this could get access through the act of dreaming while we are in a state of dreaming?
Yeah, I think so, because I've seen too much of my own. And I know that we are nothing more than a walking computer. Your brain is a computer, your wiring system, we call your nervous system, is your wiring for the computer. And we have enough blood vessels in us to stretch for thousands of miles, we're told. And so our brains are a computer, our bodies are a biological battery, which feeds the computer. And we have something called Wi-Fi that we have developed in this world called Wi-Fi, whereby it's some kind of a technology where all the computers around can watch other different programs. Everybody's watching something different, but it's all coming from one central source of Wi-Fi. And I'm thinking about God as being a Wi-Fi, some kind of a central audio visual operation going on in the world of space out there. When children talk about God, God's out there, I say, well, there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but it's something out there. And it's a hell of a lot smarter than we are. And I've seen too much with my own eyes to know that our race of people, our humans, are being controlled from out there. Somebody is leading us and directing our evolving our destiny. Our destiny is being led by spirit in it. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And so that's why there are certain people who are just gifted, intelligently gifted, to be able to know things, to run governments, to set up international banking cartels, to control the flow of science, astronomy, all the esoteric orders of the world, all the secret societies operating. We call them mafia, la cosa nostra, secret societies, criminal organizations. these people may be evil and horrible, but they're not stupid. They're brilliant in how they run the whole world in such a way that you live right in the middle of it and don't even see it. That's how good these people are.
I agree. And I'm wondering if there is some way. See, to me, there seems to be a tie-in here with when we go into the state of dreaming, when we go sleeping and our consciousness moves aside, wherever it goes. Is it possible we're being accessed at that point? Where does our consciousness go when we go to sleep? When you go to sleep, Jordan, where do you go?
Well, that's a heavy-duty question. I don't know. All I know is that one time when I was about 7 years old, I finally got into bed one night, and a few hours later, I woke up in my nightgown. At 7 years old, I woke up, and I was about 4 miles from my home on an overpass, on a bridge, overpassing all the train tracks coming into town or going under that overpass. And it was a large overpass, and it was very high. And I woke up and from my sleep, and I was standing on this bridge, this concrete overpass, and it was freezing cold, and I was freezing. So I stood behind the big pylons to get away from the wind chill factor. And I heard a car speeding, and it was in a little Mickey Mouse town. My little town back in 1959 was, 1940, when I was born, about 46, 47, 48. I was about 7 or 8 years old. My town was very small, and I could hear a car speeding, and I looked out from behind the pylons of the overpass, those big I-beams. I was covering myself in the I-beam because I was freezing cold. And I looked out, and I could see a car coming, and it was running all the lights. It was running red lights. But there's nobody in town anyway. The place is sound asleep. And so this car was running red lights, and it started up the mountain, up the hill, coming up toward me. As it come past me, I saw the 2 girls in the back seat. They waved at me, and the 2 boys in the front seat, and they waved. And as they went down the other side of the hill. I stood out, leaned out to look at them as they're going down, and they blew a tire. They blew a tire on the passenger side, and they lost control of the car, and I saw it skidding around, and it skidded into a parking lot over the gravel of the parking lot, and it skidded into the building, which was a coffee shop. And I had the presence of mind, even at that early age, I had the presence of mind to realize the severity of what I just saw. I knew what I was going to see if I went down there. I knew what had happened. And I ran out across the bridge to the other side and ran down. And I remember running down, screaming to myself, yelling to myself, "Don't trip," because I was going as fast as I could. And I realized if I trip, I'm going to scrape myself terrible because I'm running fast as I can down this concrete overpass. And I ran up to the restaurant, and it was flooded with glass, and it was horrible, frightening scene. And the car had smashed into the front of the restaurant, the coffee shop. And I was frightened to death as a child. And I remember running across the gravel because I was running on the concrete. I ran down and I ran across the gravel, and halfway there, it dawned on me, I'm barefooted, and my feet were killing me running on gravel. And my first thought was, you're going to have to go on, keep going, because it's going to be the same distance to turn around and go back to the sidewalk. You might as well keep going. You can do one or the other. Keep going to help the people, or turn around and go back to the sidewalk. And so I kept going. I ran into the front of this terrible accident, and I could see the people were bleeding and glass everywhere, and it was a horrible experience. And I tried to mentally, even at that age, I tried to be very calm and look around to see who could I help and who can I not help, and go to help the ones that I could help. And so, and then when I started looking around, I saw all the terrible tragedy, and I flipped out as a child. I couldn't handle it, and I started crying. And I woke up in bed at that moment. I woke up in bed and I was crying and frightened. And my parents came into my bedroom, and I told them what I had seen, where I was, and what I had saw happen. And later on, the next day, we found out that what I had said happened did happen. And I was amazed that when I heard that, yes, there was a terrible wreck last night, 4 or 5 miles away, and I was there. I saw it. And yet I'm trying to tell my parents, and nobody knew what I was talking about. I was there. I saw it. That's why I woke up in the bed crying. And so those kind of things happened to me quite a bit. I began going places. I did not know where I was going and why I was leaving my body. I began seeing things that other people did not see. I would be in the right place at the wrong time to see something unbelievable. And nobody saw it, and it just went on, and nobody saw it, nobody cared, went on with their life. But it really shook me up what I saw. And believe me, I have had so many experiences like that. I've had a brush with Bigfoot. So when people talk about Bigfoot, I don't have any problem with that. I was there. I was in the mountains of Washington State, just above Olympia, Washington, out in the middle of nowhere camping as a 19-year-old kid, and I come across something that I know was Bigfoot. And there were 2 other boys with me. We came across it. We will never forget what happened. Even that, a long time ago, we came across a Bigfoot. So when I hear people talking about them, I know. I don't have to believe. I know I was there.
Yes, Jordan, I had a Bigfoot experience. I live out here in the Pacific Northwest, and I also am with you. I know 100%. And it was not a fun experience, and I can't imagine. It scared the hell out of me. So I want to get back to that. This is astonishing that you were able to get that story when you were 7 from being out of body, essentially, a remote viewing in a way. So those experiences while you were sleeping and you were out viewing stuff, is this common in your life?
Yes. Yes, it is common in my life. I have seen so many things that other people were there and they didn't see. They just happened to be turning the wrong way and looking the wrong way, and I saw something that happened right in front of me. And then I asked them, "Did you see that?" "No, what?" I said, "How could you have missed it? It was right here in front of us." "Nope, we didn't see anything." So I just gave up. I just feel that it's something I'm supposed to see. Did I ever tell you about my girlfriend that I met back in 1959?
Yes, you did. And before we get into some of that, I'm interested again in what do you think is going on during a nightmare? So are these entities that are coming to us?
A few.
Yes. Are these entities?
Yeah, I've had a few. The worst nightmare I ever had was when I was about 7 years old. I was in bed, all the lights were off, and I woke up and there were 2 eyes, glowing eyes. It might have been just lights from the street or something, but all I saw was 2 eyes, and I went ballistic. I went ballistic because my spirit felt that there was some kind of a demonic depravity of an animal behind those eyes. And I started crying and screaming and jumping up in bed and screaming and yelling. And of course, with the windows wide open because it was a summer night, everybody in the block heard me, and everybody is awakened by me screaming as loud as I could. And my dad and mom come running in. My mother flipped on the light, reached in and flipped on the light before she came in. And when she flipped on that light, I did a totally berserk. I started screaming at her, "Don't come in this room." And she wouldn't come in. I kept screaming to my dad, don't come in this room. And they said, why? And I said, well, he's here. He's right there. I could feel a creature. I could feel something overwhelmingly evil right there by the door where my mother was standing. And I said, he's standing right next to you. Leave the room. Don't come in here. He's right here. And then the entity started moving. I said, now he's moving over here to this side. Now he's over here on the left. Don't come in the room. He's standing right here. I could feel where he was. I didn't see him, but I could feel it. And it was an incredible, awesome feeling of something very evil and otherworldly in my bedroom. And I finally saw him. I finally felt him go out the wall. He left my room. And when he left my room, I collapsed on the bed. Only about 7 or 8 years old, I collapsed on the bed and I was totally out of breath. I had given everything I could to yelling and screaming for my parents to stay out of the room. And I finally just collapsed. But I shall never forget the fear that was in that spirit entity that was in my room. There was no doubt about it. It was not of this world. Mm-hmm. It was an otherworldly fear or a fright of something horrible that you could not explain how horrible it was. It's just that you don't want to experience it yourself. You will never forget it if it ever happened.
Jordan, on this note, is there a way, are you able to tell who is being possessed? And are you able to give us, I have a sense of this, but I'm wondering, is there a way you can convey to others with this idea of these kind of the possession that's going on and it's amping up? I'm noticing it amping up.
It's amping up big time. It certainly is.
And I'm not sure why, you may know why, but is there a way, a clue in which you can look at someone or hear someone or see someone and know that their vessel, their body has been hijacked by something else?
Yes. But the way I detect it is I feel it. It is said that women feel while men think. And this is why the world is so screwed up. Men are always trying to think how to do each other, militarily speaking. But women feel. So I know that, that was always the joke that you have that feminine intuition. No, there is something to that. Women have the ability to feel something is wrong. They may not intellectually understand it, but they know it's there. And so that's the way I react to people who are not of this world. I just feel it. I just know it. And something about them just tells me that there's not of this world. Don't fool with this person. Something's wrong with them. And I'm right every time. I know I'm right. I don't fool with them.
What do you think is going on? Why is it amping?
I think that it's been going on for a long, long time, for thousands and thousands of years. I think our history on this earth has never been told to the people of this world. I feel that our civilization on this earth is like a kindergarten, a worldwide, big, enormous kindergarten with millions of little children, and it's being run by profoundly evil criminals at the top who can rape any child they want, steal anything they want, and do anything they please because they're far superior to you as a human. They use you to eat you. They use you to use your spirit, manipulated into exploiting and being exploited into being directed in our evolution. Somebody is directing the human race. And we are so self-centered, egotistical, inexperienced, and dim-witted. We don't know that. Somebody is divinely directing the evolution of our race. They are giving us knowledge and teaching us things every day, and we think it's because we're so smart. No, you're not that smart. we are being led into some kind of a catastrophe, which is coming on the earth and has been coming for a long, long time. And I've got too many examples of that, way too many examples of showing how we humans are being led by spirit entities.
Yeah, I know you have the examples. I'm wondering, what is your hypothesis and where this is going?
I think that somebody, either one of two things, either someone has been here, which is far, far superior to the human race. They have always been here for tens of thousands, if not millions of years ago. And they're the ones that have created all of the structures around the world, pyramids and temples in the ocean. But nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to know. Like George Carlin said, nobody seems to know. Nobody seems to care. It's not important. And of course, it's not important unless, of course, you're intelligent and you start to ask questions. Why hasn't our military government told us anything? Why isn't the U.S. Navy is out there looking around and we've been chasing UFOs in the Bermuda Triangle? Why is it that Albert Einstein talked about the Bermuda Triangle and he believed there was something there? He said it was probably a portal to the earth from other worlds. They come into our world through the Bermuda Triangle and go out the other way through the Devil's Triangle in the Pacific. But who listens to Albert Einstein? Most people don't even know who he is. I'm just amazed at how much the human family do not know about the world they live in. It's incredible. It's unbelievable how much is going on right now in this world in front of you. And most people are not aware at all. It doesn't bother them. Like Winston Churchill said, that he was quoted as saying that in the human family, there will be times when people will have something happen to them that will just knock them over. And they fall down. Something horrible happens that knocks them over. But they get up and they brush themselves off and straighten themselves up and go about their way and never think about it. Well, that's where I'm different. I think about it. I know when something horrible happens, I see it. There must be a reason, and I know there is. And so I know that most people don't see it. That's why the scripture has Jesus saying, you have eyes, but you do not see. You have ears, but you don't listen. And with your heart, you don't get the sense of it. You're watching things, but you're not smart enough to know what you're watching is not of this world, and you better find out what's going on with the world you live in, because when you die, you're going to be really surprised where you're going when you leave this world.
This is a thing I think about a lot, and I cannot help but think about how short the genetic code is for humans at this time, because when you live long enough, or when you experience stuff long enough, you start naturally questioning why you're on the daily grind.
Well, why you would think you would, yeah.
Well, but you think about how short most people's, the lifespan really is.
And they're shallow. People are shallow.
Yes.
They're not interested in thinking deeply about nothing. They're very, very shallow people. Well, that's why things work. That's why the demonic world works. The occult world works because nobody is looking. Nobody's watching. Nobody's even thought about it. They just go have their beer and go out to the ball game and watch a football game and go to work and pay their bills. And it never occurred to them that anything different is going on. And then you think about, my God, if you only knew the things that I know, if you'd only been where I have been and seen what I have seen, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Well, so this is because eventually, even the most shallow person after so long is going to question why they're doing the same things every single day, and
expecting a different result.
Right. The definition of crazy, and so do you think in this modified experience with shortened lifespans that for people other than that question reality like yourself, is there a way to get out of this labyrinth?
I would say no. I would say no, based on my opinion, my subjective opinion. It's just my opinion. Here I am, an adult, giving an opinion. I would say no. I would say no, based on what I know and who I've talked to and what I've heard from all kinds of people around the world, military to governmental people, religious leaders. I would say no, there is no hope. Most people don't want to hear that. They're so shallow, they want to hear that everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay. So all that bunch of bull that Jordan Maxwell's talking about, nothing to it. So don't worry about it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you better be prepared for what's coming, because there's something coming on this earth you don't want to know about, but it's coming and it's on its way. And one day soon, when it breaks out, and what's prophesied to come and what's coming, and you can see it already happening around the world. Strange things are beginning to happen that never happened before.
Yes.
And so what's going on is you're going to find out you have no idea in the world who you really are and where you've actually come from.
Where do we come from, Jordan?
I think that we humans have come from out there. We have been brought here. I mean, I talk about this often. First of all, I think the Bible has the real answer. I think the book of Genesis tells us something, that if we understand it's a metaphor, it's a strange encoded, and everybody's heard about Bible codes. Yeah, well, I think the whole Bible is a code. I think it's all encoded. And I know, because I have already talked to all the rabbis and all the rabbinical authorities about this, and I know that they know, the rabbis know, that there's nothing but codes all in the first 5 books of the Bible. It's all encoded. And you have no idea in the world what the Bible is actually saying. It does not say anything about God creating man. The Bible, I'm telling you, if you're listening, the Bible does not say in Genesis that God created man. It doesn't say that. Get that out of your mind. You misunderstood the words. Because the word man in Hebrew, and there is no Hebrew language, there's a Phoenician language. The Phoenicians were called Canaanites. And the Canaanites spoke a particular language called Phoenician. And so today, the Canaanites speak Phoenician language. But the Canaanites today, we call Hebrews. And they're speaking their language. Their Hebrew language is not Hebrew. They are Hebrew, but they're speaking Phoenician language. And so we get the word Phoenician, meaning giving us the word phonetics, phony, and phonetics comes from Phoenician. And so when you look at the Bible, Genesis, the first chapter, the first couple of chapters, and understand it, going back to the Phoenician ancient Canaanite, it all becomes very clear what's really being said. And the church has misled people, wanting people to believe something that's not true. It doesn't say that in the Bible at all. And I had a very famous rabbi many years ago. I was very close friends with him. I helped him on many of his books, and he helped me on many things I was doing. We had a very close relationship, and he told me, this was back in 1960, a long time before Kennedy was even assassinated. This rabbi said, there's no place in the Old Testament, what you Christians call the Old Testament. There's no place in that Old Testament where God said he created man. It doesn't say that. Go back and do your homework and look at the language and read it again. Don't just believe something because some ignorant rabbi or some ignorant reverend in the church told you something he believed, because he had to get his license from the state. He had to have Caesar stamp his permit to be a minister before he could get a license to be a minister. So he had to have Caesar's okay. I don't need any Caesar okaying me. I know what I'm doing. I don't need Caesar to give me an okay that I can speak. My God gave me the right to speak. And I'm telling you that there is no place in the Old Testament that God said God created man. He did not create man. Why? Simple. Because man in the old Phoenician language, which we call Hebrew, the old Hebrew language, man is ish, I-S-H. Ish is man or men. And so in Genesis 1, when it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, that's not the word for God is El. E-L is God in the Phoenician Canaanite language, El. And so you would expect that if you go back to the old Hebrew Bible and read Genesis 1:1, you would expect it to say, in the beginning, El created the heavens and the earth. It doesn't say El, and the word is not used, so it's not El. So when you read in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created, no, that's not God. El is God. Well, what is the word used in Hebrew? Elohim, not El. It's a different word, Elohim. Elohim is like, it's a plural to a word. So anything that has Elohima is a plural. It's like putting a comma and an S on the English word car. You have car or comma S, cars, meaning more than one. That's what Lohim means. El, God, Lohim is a comma and S. So it should be correctly read, in the beginning, the gods created the heaven and the earth, not God. And so we're told that the Jews were the first monotheistic people. They were the first monotheistic, meaning they worship one God, monotheistic. The Jews were the first worshipers of one God. No, 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 you're wrong again. Go back and do your homework. Try and go back and take a course in school about English and look at the words and read it correctly. It doesn't say the Jews were monotheistic. They were anything but monotheistic. They were the most different gods among the Hebrews, all kinds of gods. So the word is not monotheistic, it's heno, spelled H-E-N-O. Look it up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Henotheistic means picking one god from a group. So if there's, say, 16 gods standing in front of you, and you were asked, which one do you want to follow? And you say, I like that one. I like him. I want to follow him. And then he speaks up and says, all right, I will accept you as my follower and I will be your God. Okay, and then you make an agreement. Okay, I'm going to only follow you. That's why in the book of the Ten Commandments, the Ten Commandments said, I am the Lord your God, and I will not have strange gods before me. Well, that's what a young man would say to the girl he's going to marry. I know there are other good-looking fellas out there and other good-looking young guys, but I don't want to catch you with any of them because I am jealous. I am the one that you made an arrangement with and you agreed to go steady with me and we're going to get married. So I know there are other young gods out there, young guys out there, but don't let me catch you messing around with them because we have a deal together. And the same thing she would say to him. There are other beautiful women out there, but we got a deal. So don't let me catch you messing around. Why? Because I'm jealous. Well, that's what the Bible said. I am a jealous God. So don't go messing around with any of the other gods. There were 16 of them. And I know they're out there. So you're not the worshiper of one God. No, you are a worshiper of the one you picked.
Yes.
The one God that you picked is the one God. We could say that you are a worshiper of one God, but boy, there's a whole lot more.
Is there, so with this, with what you just said and the stuff that is, that we agree with that's in the Bible, what is your perspective on the phenomenon known as Mandela effect or time slips? where the language and all this stuff, dimensional, whatever, there's something going on with these remembered timelines.
As I said to you before, we humans, as a collective human civilization on the earth, all of us, all humans, we are being misled and deceived into following someone else's ideas about our natural evolution. So I say that evolution is not the subject to study. Evolution is not important. It's intervention, which is really important. Not evolution, intervention. Somebody came here from out there long time ago, and they saw the indigenous creatures that were on this earth, and we don't even know how they got here, the indigenous creatures. But somebody came from out there and landed here on this earth and saw the indigenous creatures that we call hominids. Science called them hominids. The hominids were like Neanderthal creatures. They were like animals, large animals, but they walked upright like we do. And they have male and female like us. But they were called hominids, and they were like Neanderthals. And so somebody came from out there, and I'm talking about hundreds of millions of years ago, hundreds of thousands or multiple millions of years ago. And they come down here a long time ago before you and your grandmother was even here. And they saw these indigenous creatures that we call the hominids, the Neanderthal creatures, the old cavemen.
Yes.
And they said to themselves, wonder what it would be like if we cross-pollinated with one of the females. Let's put some of our DNA in her and crossbreed with her. Let's see what she gives birth to. Let's just give it a try, see what she gives birth to. So they put some of their DNA in the hominid female, and she ultimately gave birth to something which was not Neanderthal, which was not extraterrestrial, but was a clever combination of the two. It would look like a Neanderthal, but it was a hell of a lot smarter than Neanderthal.
And not so hairy.
And then they would crossbreed with what she gave birth to, crossbreed with again, and it would perfect it even more. So now the next child came out, looked even more like the parents, the extraterrestrial. And then eventually they did it again. It was just an experiment. They were playing around with us. They did it again, and eventually they gave birth to us, what we look like today. That's why the scripture says in Genesis 1:28 that God, no, Elohim, not God, the gods in plural, the God said, let us make Adam, it doesn't, if you go back to Genesis 1:18, 1:28, in the old Hebrew Bible, it does not say, let us come and make Ish. I-S-H is man. So it says, come, let us make Ish. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say Ish. So it's not God made man. No, he made something different. He made something different than Ish. Ish is what's already here. Man, Cro-Magnon man, Peking man, Neanderthal man, cave man, always man, but nothing more than an ancient creature that was crawling on the earth on 2 feet like us, like Bigfoot. And so therefore, we are nothing more than a crossbreeding of continual, perpetual crossbreeding with extraterrestrials by somebody higher than we are, somebody far, far smarter, a long time ago. How does George Lucas say it? Far, far away in a
long time ago.
Far, far away. Yeah.
That correlates with the Anunnaki story, the Sitchin stuff.
That's exactly right.
So
I was in business with Zechariah Sitchin.
I'm aware of that.
I gave him a large sum of money to sign a contract with me, and we were actually in business. And therefore, he and I had many times we were together in hotels and traveling around the country at his speaking engagements. I went with him because I was his business partner. And we talked about a lot of things that people have no idea in the world about Zacharias. I can tell you personal stories. I know about him. I've seen him do, and I know what he knows. And it was an extraordinary adventure being in business with Zacharias Sitchin, but I was there.
Yeah, I bet.
And so I'm just telling you that we today, as we are talking today, we are the offspring of the gods, the Elohim. That's why in 128 in the Hebrew it says, Genesis 128, God said, "Come, let us make man in our image after our likeness." It doesn't say that, "Come, let us make ish." It's, the word is not ish for man. It's A-D-M. A Hebrew word that we say, we put a double A in it, make it Adam, A-D-A-L. No, not Adam, not man, not Ish or Adam. The Hebrew word is A-D-M. Go look it up in the Hebrew dictionary, go look it up in the Hebrew Bible. And so what's being said in the Bible in Genesis 1:28, the gods, Elohim, said, "Come, let us." I often wonder, who are you talking about, us? I thought this was God creating Adam and Eve. No, it's "come, let us." He's asking, whoever is talking is asking for an idea among others. Like, "Come, let us go to a movie," or "Let's go to the beach," or "Let's go for dinner." "Come, let us do this," or "Come, let us do that." It's asking other people's opinion. And so the scripture says in Genesis 1:28, "Come, let us make man." And the Christians say, see, there it is. God made man. No, it doesn't say man. It's not the word ish. It's A-D-M.
Yes.
Not Adam, A-D-M. Well, what is A-D-M in Hebrew? Well, now it's about time you start asking that question. About time you start wondering about that. What does A-D-M mean to a rabbi, someone who's trained in that language? And so the idea being is that God said, the gods, more than one, the plural, "Come, let us make Adam in our image, after our likeness." So therefore, what we have been told is wrong. The God did not say, "Come, let us make man." "Come, let us make Adam in our image, after our likeness." Yeah, let's put into her our productive seed, and let's see what she gives birth to. She'll give birth to what the Hebrews call Adam, not Adam, Adam. Well, let us see what she will give birth to. "Come, let us make man, let us make Adam in our image, after our likeness." So therefore, we look like the gods who created us.
Do you
which
think?
means that maybe those extraterrestrials who come from out there are still out there. And if you go out there to their planets, wherever the hell they've come from, wherever these spirit entities have come from, they're on their planet where they have come from, they look just like you. This is why when we hear people say, "Well, I was in the UFO and with the extraterrestrials, and they look like men. They look like handsome men, good-looking men." That's right, because that's what the extraterrestrials look like out there. They look like you. Why? Because they don't look like you. You look like them. Why? Because they intervened in your evolution and insinuated themselves into the female and eventually brought about you.
As above, so below.
So I have a question. This has always bugged me. Do you think that they actually had sex with the monkeys, or was it genetic engineering?
No, it's genetic engineering of the Neanderthal, not with monkeys.
I'm sorry, Neanderthals.
Neanderthals were not monkeys.
I know. That was my bad. The Neanderthals.
And so that's why today monkeys are still reproducing monkeys. Why? Because that's what monkeys do. They don't reproduce.
Right.
Monkeys don't. Chimps don't reproduce and give us beautiful blonde women.
Not usually.
No.
I was just watching something about Rh negative blood and I recall that Neanderthals, they think, was the source of that, and when they mated with Cro-Magnons, this is the scientific explanation. when they interacted with the Cro-Magnon is where the Rh negative blood got into our supply, into the Homo sapien population.
Yeah. Well, as I told you before, our history on this earth has been totally covered up so that you will never know what the real story is. The gods who created us a long time ago, you look like them.
Do you think that anyone actually remembers or knows what the real story is anymore?
Well, I don't think that there's going to be too many people in this earth who are going to know the real story. And the reason why is because nobody gives a damn.
Yeah, true.
There's only a handful of people who are intellectually superior enough to question the very validity of the story and begin to understand that the people who are leading our world, our leaders, our masters, who are the masters of our world, are not from here. And this is what Hollywood's been trying to tell you for years, is that there's an extraterrestrial race that looks just like you. You look like you as human. And therefore, you are so self-centered, not you, but I'm just talking about the human race, is so self-centered, egotistical, ignorant, and ill-informed, unread, and downright dim-witted. We don't even begin to understand that the extraterrestrials who are here and leading us look just like us, and we just go along to get along, or whatever they say. Well, that's what the government says. You know, Adolf Hitler was doing this. Oh, well, he's the government. He represents the government. So he said, go out and kill all the Jews. That's what we have to do. We just have to follow the government. And I say, yeah, why don't you just crawl on your knees and follow the government into the pits of hell? Yeah. Because you don't have the brains enough to know what's really going on here and who's really running the show on the earth. And I have had at least enough to find out that where we're being led, you don't want to know. Where we're going Jordan, as a human family, you are not going to be very happy when you find out what's really going on.
Jordan, what proof do we have that we're actually alive, that we're not in some state of comatose
yeah.
delusion?
Well, I asked that question when I was about 10 years old. I remember asking a teacher who was talking about all the intelligent life on around the earth, and I said, my question is there intelligent life on the earth anywhere? I mean, has anyone really thought about who we are as humans? We are a biological battery. And that's why when you go to court, if you can't bail yourself out, you will go into a cell. They'll put you into a cell, which we call a battery.
Yeah.
They put your body into a cell because you are a biological battery, and they're putting you into a cell. There's a whole world of how the world really works, what government is, what law is, commerce, religion, military industrial complex. There is an enormous world of hidden symbols and words and terms and ideas and concepts that you've never heard before. If you ever really were to sit down and hear someone explain the world that actually exists here in front of you, it will shock you if you ever find out how this world actually works.